Now, Florida is officially becoming a laboratory for fascism in the United States. Now there is now Ron DeSantis is not a mini Trump or some other diminutive. He is much more fucking dangerous. Donald Trump has no ideology beyond a megalomania and a deep state desire to be an American God King, even though he'll never be one. By comparison, DeSantis is far more intelligent, which he really isn't, and devious. DeSantis is an ideological fascist and a racial authoritarian. Now, in a recent essay at Raw Story, Tom Hartman summarized the danger to American democracy and a society that was embodied by DeSantis. Historians and political observers have been predicting that America would get over our very own Mussolini ever since the days of Barry Goldwater, and there's been no shortage of candidates. Bribe-taking Nixon, Central American fascist-loving Reagan, Gitmo torturing and war-lying Bush, and of course, the, the Nazi Trump. But with Ron DeSantis, we may finally be facing an all-American politician who has Mussolini's skill, ruthlessness, and willingness to see people die to advance his political career, all while being smart and educated enough to avoid the easily satirized buffoonishness of Trump. Now, DeSantis and other Republican fascists have proclaimed Florida to be a bastion of freedom and liberty, when in reality it's not. Now, in reality, Florida is a laboratory for fascism. As part of his authoritarian project, DeSantis is enforcing thought crime laws that forbid the teaching of African American studies in high school and other courses and programs across Florida's school system, including included at the college and university level, that examine questions of power, race, and systemic inequality. DeSantis and his agents recently declared that the African American Studies course was inappropriate and will not be taught in Florida school because it has no educational value and is indoctrinating white young people. DeSantis and his regime's thought crime attacks on African American studies are Orwell's 1984 meets Birth of a Nation. The purpose of DeSantis' thought crimes is to intimidate and terrorize all teachers, educators, librarians, and others who are committed to basically educating people and critical thinking and the truth in Florida and beyond. In DeSantis' Florida, and soon to be across the red state America, if he and the other fascist Republicans get their way, there will be censors who review books and other material for thought crimes and other dangerous ideas that are contrary to the interests of conservatives. These censors and party officials and their designated agents will also rewrite history and reality itself to fit the demands of the regime. The public will no longer be able to discern truth from lies and fantasies from facts and fiction. The subversion and destruction of reality, facts, and the truth are a precondition for and one of the primary ways that fascist and other authoritarian regimes obtain and keep power. DeSantis' goal is to make America into a new Jim Crow, crystal fascist plutocracy. Now, Donald Trump and Trumpism were just intermediate stops on that evil journey. This is the power of censorship. People quickly learn to police their own behavior and that of their family, friends, neighbors, and yes, strangers. The public's intellectual, creative, ethical, and moral lives quickly become impoverished. The result is the ideal fascist authoritarian subject, a compliant person who does not resist. Here is a partial list of the dozens of scholars, authors, and other public thinkers whose work has now been declared illegal on a thought crime by DeSantis and his agents and subsequently marked for removal from the AP African American Studies course. Now, there's all these names that did this. Kimberly Crenshaw, Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, Natasha Coates, Kianga Taylor, Nell Painter, Manning Marble, Kathy Cohen, Henry Gates Jr., James Cone, Nikki Giovanni, and Barbara Fields. And these people are not just names on a band's book list. They are real human beings who are committed to helping the public and their students be engaged and responsible members of a larger community, and to develop critical thinking skills that they can use to challenge and interrogate power, with the goal of making a better, more just, and truly democratic society. Now, basically, a lot of people have been interviewed, been in dialogue with, and enjoyed the company of, and had meals with, or otherwise interacted with a good many of those banned authors and scholars, and many others have greatly benefited from their scholarship, wisdom, time, and concern. Now, why is DeSantis and his agents in Florida and across the country targeting African American studies and other such programs? Now, there are many fucking reasons why. The Black Freedom Struggle is one of the most successful pro-democracy resistance movements in American world history. DeSantis and the other Republican fascists and their forces do not want these lessons to be known, learned, or otherwise disseminated. The Satanist is working to create a type of regime of knowledge where black, brown, and other marginalized people's triumphs and experiences are outright erased and are grossly distorted as a way of literally removing their personhood and existence. History has repeatedly shown that thought crimes, banned books, and other forms of intellectual violence are precursors, and they do the work of interpersonal and intergroup violence on a large scale by the state and those empowered to act in its name against those deemed to be the enemy. Now in all power intersects with and is an extension of knowledge production, and knowledge is not neutral. Philosopher Michel Foucault explained as much. There is no power relation without the correlative constitution of a field of knowledge, nor any knowledge that does not presuppose and constitute at the same time the power relations. Now Foucault also explained that truth is linked in a circular relation with systems of power which produce and sustain it. Now the Satanist attended Yale for his undergraduate degree. In all likelihood, he encountered the work of Foucault during his studies there. Now the Satanist is putting Foucault's powerful insights to work in ways that are contrary to their original intent. Now, in a recent interview at the New Yorker, contributing writer Keeanga Taylor had spoke with historian Robin Kelly about the Satanist assault crimes regime and the targeting of African American studies. Now, Professor Taylor and Professor Kelly's work was purged from the Advanced Placement African American Studies course, and Kelly's comments merits being quoted at length. There's two levels. One is that it's about Ron DeSantis possibly running for squatter. I think that's the most important thing, because no matter what we think about the Satanist and his policies, we know that he went to Yale University and he majored in history and political science with a 3.7 GPA, which means that he was one of the premier institutions for history. And that's why we get frustrated when people say he needs to take a class. He took the class. He fucking knows better. He knows that the culture wars actually win votes. He's trying to get the Trump constituency. So I think this is about Ron DeSantis running to run for squatter, but I also think that the focus on Florida concludes a bigger story. As you know, this goes back to the Trump years and way beyond Trump. And let's just talk about the Trump years, the attack on the 1619 Project, Chris Ruppel's strategy of turning critical race theory into an epithet by denying it and meaning whatsoever. And creating a buzzword. That's actually a strategy that has nothing to do with the field of African American studies. It has everything to do with vilifying a field, attacking the whole concept of racial justice and equity. So to me, if the Satanists never banned the class, we would still be in this situation. And although it is true that a number of states did accept the pilot program for the AP, some of those same states have passed or they're about to pass laws that are banning or limiting what they're calling critical race theory. So there is a general assault on knowledge, but specifically knowledge that interrogates issues of race, sex, gender, and even class. It's an ongoing struggle to roll back anything that's perceived as diminished white power. They want to convince white working class people that the same white working class people who have very little access to good health care and housing, whose lives are actually really precarious as they move from union jobs to part-time. The concierge labor to make ends meet, that somehow if they can get control of the narrative inside classrooms, their lives would be better. Racism actually damages all of our prospects of future. And I don't think it's an accident that the people who are targeted, like Angela Davis, and basically Bill Hooks, to say that we're not radical would be a lie. And what does radical actually mean? And what radical actually means is that what Black Studies is about is trying to understand how the system works and recognizing that the way the system works and how it benefits a few at the expense of the many. It's easy to allow someone to come in the name of the Black Studies and say, we're going to talk about ancient Africa and the great achievements of the Kush of ancient Egypt. And that's not a threat, but not as much as the idea of critical race theory saying that no matter what policies and procedures and legislation are implemented, the structure of racism, embedded in a capitalist system, and embedded in a system of patriarchy, continues to create wealth for some and make the rest of our lives precarious. Precarious in terms of money, precarious in terms of police violence, precarious in terms of environmental catastrophe, and precarious in many, many other ways. And I think that people could agree with me. That's why we do. That's why a lot of people have scholarships, because we're trying to figure out a way to make a better future for ourselves. And that's the whole point. And if that's subversive, then say it. But it's definitely not indoctrination, because indoctrination is a state that bans books. Now, the subject of African American studies, even before it was called that, has been not just a condition of Black people, but the condition of the country as a whole. And not just narrating that oppression and understanding it, and not just trying to think about ways to move beyond it and to transcend it, but to come up with strategies just to try to live. but also understanding what's wrong with this country, with the system. We're not just interrogating our lives, we're interrogating knowledge production itself. Dangerous thinking is a good thing, and those with power want to socialize us into learned helplessness so that we will not see and achieve the radical possibilities of a true social democracy. Now, years ago, when um, when people were in high school and then college, people were lucky enough to have a very generous teachers who took them on trips to conferences and other events at leading universities and institutions, such as the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. In fact, people were very lucky to have attended several conferences where Joseph Ben Jaganan, who's known as Dr. Ben, was one of the founders of African Studies, and he was the featured speaker. Those years that saw the Million Man Marches, debates about the merits of multiculturalism, diversity and affirmative action at American colleges and universities, and boiling with ethnic, racial, and class tensions in Los Angeles and New York's Crown Heights and Howard Beach neighborhoods, among others. The golden age of hip-hop music and culture and so many other political and cultural formations and events, it would be an understatement to say that those years were quite an exhilarating time to be a young, black, politically engaged person in America. In so many fucking ways, if you're an African American, you're very much a product of that time period, depending on what time you grew up in. Now, we learned that people have no taste for racial chauvinism. Such beliefs are the mind killer. I came to the conclusion that that American and Western society is profoundly sick with white supremacy and racism, and those forces will likely bring the ultimate destruction of American society and its so-called democracy. Now, a more humane and good society are possible if we want it badly enough, on both sides of the color line. Now, racism and white supremacy are fucking choice. America is structured around such forces, and too many white Americans and others are deeply invested in such an arrangement of things. Even if it causes them great harm, the Satanists and the larger white right are using thought crimes and other tools of censorship and intimidation as weapons to limit how we conceptualize freedom, democracy, justice, and the boundaries of the possible. The Satanists and those of his ilk wouldn't be trying to ban books and authors, and by implication, whole groups of people, if they were not deeply afraid of them and the possibilities of achieving a more democratic and free and humane society. Now, if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, REW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. If you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a month, your donation can help go a long way. And if you want to, and also you can leave a comment, let me know what you think. And thanks for listening.